Hello and welcome to Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms, the podcast that provides you with all the latest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you are looking to substantially increase your caseload in the next 6 months, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's the host of our show, the local business guy himself, Frank Deming.
Hello, everyone. This is Frank Deming, the local business guy. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day, everyone. I hope you guys are having a rockin' week thus far. Today, I have the privilege of talking to one of the most impressive technical minds in the East Coast. Without further ado, I'm just going to bring her on because, I'm sure you're going to be as impressed with her as I was when I first met her. And of course, I'm talking about the great Sam Torres. How's it going, Sam?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for that intro. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's well-deserved. So, we were talking a little bit earlier before hitting record. So why don't you introduce yourself? Who are you and what do you do?
Sure. So yes, I am Sam Torres. I'm the Chief Digital Officer of Grey Dot Company, and we are an agency that specializes in technical and strategic SEO, but we also do a lot of fun stuff in data and kind of digital marketing research. And then we also, we actually are a full service agency, but SEO and data are really our loves and where we like to spend the most time. Prior to being in marketing, which I've been doing for about 13 years, I was a front-end developer. So that's why we do a lot more of the technical, really nerdy things that make most people go cross-eyed or they don't like the work. That's the kind of stuff that we love.
So it's interesting. A lot of, I've interviewed a ton of SEOs. What was that?
There's a lot of us. That's fair.
Yeah. Now, no one has ever coupled it with data. So I noticed you said we focus on SEO and data. Can you expand on what you mean by focus on SEO and data?
Sure. So typically when you start an SEO campaign, even the most traditional basic things, you're always going to start with keyword research. You want to know what are the keywords that your client or your own business want to target to bring in new customers. And so that keyword research, we do so much in that as SEOs that really for a long time, those have been kind of things that only SEO owned. And so me and my business partner, we started expanding from there because like I said, we're doing a ton of keyword research, which really tells you what are people interested in? What are they looking for just based on the types of words they're using? Well, then we started educating and trying to inform more with other data sources. So whether it's pulling what's trending on YouTube, what's trending on TikTok, what are the questions that people have on Reddit, and are they getting the right kinds of answers or are they getting answers at all? So we started using those things to kind of educate our SEO strategy and then really saw there's actually a lot of applications outside just SEO. So for example, I can take some of what we would consider traditional SEO research methods and apply them to other parts of the business. So things like informing your product roadmap. What are the features that users are looking for the most? There's a lot of times where the SEO or the marketing team, if they're sitting under marketing, has done that research and knows what types of keywords are important, but it hasn't been communicated across the aisle to the product team or the customer service team. So that's really what we're trying to do is take, like I said, just kind of those things that you already do for SEO to come up with that ideal strategy of what should you be targeting and applying to other places. And then, we also just have fun because we'll tap into the APIs of other platforms. There's just so much data out there available to us for free of how users are interacting online and what they're looking for. The applications are pretty endless. And then also with that, there's also a ton of data that companies are usually sitting on top of within their own data. So whether it's your own CRM or even just your website usage data, there might be things in there that we can really use to help, like I say, inform what should you be doing, what topics should you be focusing on in a content strategy. What are the features your customers are looking for? Where are your customers located that maybe you need to think about either having a physical presence there for customer service or expanding that customer service center? Yeah, there's just a lot of data that comes into play to SEO. We do a lot of reporting, and that's something that we've decided to dig in even further.
Interesting. Um, that's very, very interesting. Let me ask you this question about, because you mentioned several times keyword research, because that's my understanding, I'm not an expert, but my understanding, the foundation of a good SEO campaign is your keyword research. Am I mistaken there?
It typically is. So the keyword research, that's data that we get from Google. There's also a plethora of tools that you can use to do it. Ahrefs, SEMrush.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of platforms, right? So you can see what are the terms that people are using more often, what kind of leads them. And then from there, you'd want to start looking a little bit deeper, more than just what words are popular, what's already ranking. So what are the results? Because nobody has more data than Google. Actually, that's not true. ADP probably does. But Google has so much information and so much data that if you look at what's already ranking, chances are well, maybe not lately. We can talk about that. But chances are that's the type of answers, that's the type of content that users are looking for because they have all that engagement data where someone's question got answered.
Mm-hmm.
So really just trying to match the expectations of keywords to what is your answer, things like that. That's where the keyword research is the foundational. Because there are a lot of times where we've seen companies might talk about themselves or their services in a way that makes sense to them, but it doesn't translate to their users, to their customers who maybe aren't as educated. So we see this all the time, especially with like professional services that are B2C, because you're working with, someone who just a layperson who doesn't understand that world or doesn't have the expertise. That's exactly why they're coming to you. So really using that information to help answer their questions and talk the same language that they are, even though as someone in the industry, it's not necessarily how you would talk.
Right. Got it. Now we've talked a little bit about this already, but and I should have started this by saying what the topic of this of this interview is basically the impact of digital analytics is what we're going into. Let me ask you this question, because there's a ton of analytics out there. And I'm sure you use it to help improve a campaign for a client or whatever. But like, what are tools? I'm sure, Google Analytics is one of them. But what are tools that you can recommend someone who's listening to this call and say they want to know, is my campaign working or not? What are some tools you could recommend that can help them decipher that?
Yeah. So what's funny, because you already called it out, like you're sure Google Analytics would be one of the things mentioned. So that definitely used to be the golden standard. Now that it's GA4, which they have forced everyone to go on, I'm going to say for your average marketer, it's not the right tool. It is a very complex, convoluted tool. It's very powerful, but the onboarding is, it's deep. So some of the other tools, it's not. Yeah, even as someone who lives in analytics.
So wait, hang on. I gotta laugh about this one. So an analytic lover is saying that the GA4 is complicated. I love this because I agree it is complicated, but I'm not an analytics lover. So hearing it from you is making me a little happy. I got to tell you.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's super powerful, but you have to configure almost everything about it. So what I do like about GA4 is that you have to go in with that plan and you have to think about what am I going to measure. And I think that's a whole nother soapbox I could go into. If I think a lot of people get distracted by metrics that don't actually matter. And that was something that happened a lot with Google Analytics Universal, the version before this, is that there was just so much data already coming out of the box for you that it was really easy to get distracted and just kind of like squirrel at different moments. So that is one nice thing about GA4 is you have to really think about it and approach it and then set it all up. So there's no fluff of data. However, it also takes like 7 clicks to get to a report that used to take us only 2 clicks. And I ain't got time for all that. So yeah, GA4, also they forced us all on it and it's not even like out of beta yet. There's a lot of features that they don't have yet. And I'm like, So all of that being said, Some other great tools that are really handy, Matomo, Plausible. Matomo is also something I would recommend for anybody who has compliance or needs to be worried about privacy of data. Matomo actually offers a server on-premise model or version
Mm-hmm.
so that you own all the data. Because that also is another thing that has been kind of problematic about the Google Analytics ecosystem is that Google actually owns all that data. You don't. So for anybody who has compliance, if you are a company who's operating in the EU or you have clients in the EU, that can be something that could be problematic. Now, Google has gone and tried to do things to make that better for, obviously, they have a ton of business in the EU. But just where the data is stored, who actually owns it, I think we're going to keep seeing those conversations keep coming up again and again as privacy and really just how much data is available continues to become center stage with litigation.
Right. Right. Okay. Interesting. So I'm really intrigued about your answer about Google Analytics. I'm so happy to hear someone else say that. I kind of like the old one better, but this one is as you alluded to, they buried a couple of things that you have to kind of dig to look for it, whereas everything was right there in front of you before. But it's more comprehensive, I think, once you set it up than the other one.
That's a big one. Yes.
It's very, you can literally trace this person when they got to you and when they actually picked up the phone and call and all that stuff. But whereas before you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you mentioned those other tools because I'm sure people want to know like what other options do I have other than this big behemoth.
Yeah,
Called
there are a
GA4.
ton of options. Also, depending on your CRM or how your website is built, might have it. So, like if you're using HubSpot, it comes with its own suite of analytics. If you're using Salesforce, especially the Salesforce site builder, you have all those analytics. So there's, really just see what technology you already have. There might already be analytics suites included. But yeah, I'd say with the move to GA4, what Google did was actually open up the playing field for other companies to come in. Now, I would also say, keep in mind though, if it doesn't already come with your platform, then chances are you're going to have to pay for it. But just know when you're paying for it, you get much better ease of use. You get more transparency on where the data is coming from. And you can also start owning the data yourself instead of being beholden to these vendors.
Gotcha. As you know, this show is 100%, is mostly geared towards law firms. So let me ask you a question, and this happens a lot, believe it or not, even in 2024. If someone comes up to you and says, Sam, I would love for you to do my SEO. However, I don't have any analytics for you to see if you can even help me. How can you approach something like that?
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that still happens in 2024. I'm actually onboarding a new client right now that has that exact problem. Also, just an aside, since you've done paid media as well, they have paid going on and the agency that's running that doesn't give them reports. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? What do you mean you don't know where your money's going?
How's that possible, right?
So we're going to fix it. And I'm excited for that. So yeah, I would say it happens more often than it seems like it should. So knowing if there's potential to win an SEO, which I think is ultimately what your question is, we can do that pretty easily without analytics set up initially for a company. So the tools that we use, my agency uses both SEMrush and Ahrefs. We can start looking at what is the organic visibility of this brand. And we can even start seeing some things as far as like how popular are they socially? How are they doing any paid media? How is that going for them? So we can start to kind of look and start to glean, is there room to grow? And really, I'd say the biggest place or the biggest places to look for opportunity is actually at your competitors. Because at the end of the day, search is just a race. So knowing what to do and when to do it, it's all about your particular competitor set and who's in it, who's going after the same keywords that you're interested in, who's going after those same users, because depending on what they're doing will kind of help you identify what you need to be doing. So I'd say a lot of times we joke as SEOs in the industry, a lot of our answers when somebody asks us something is, it depends. And generally it's because it depends on what are your competitors doing, right? So if you have a competitor that has a lightning fast website, they've got 1,000 reviews, they've got all of their Google My Business listings set up and they're beautiful and have images everywhere. Like, you want to compete? You got to get on the same level. So that's really what it's about, is looking at what are your competitors doing to kind of gauge what's your total available market, or TAM. They're going to be how you know what's out there and what's available to grab.
Yeah. Okay. So, so bottom line, you can help them. You just have to go a different route to help them.
Yeah.
Using SEMrush and.
Yeah. And ideally, when we're doing that, the first month will be kind of that whole analytics setup. And let me tell you, that first year, it's fun to report because everything's going up. So definitely had those circumstances before. And then, if you are in that circumstance, just know that for the first really 6 to 9 months, because SEO takes time, it's slow. It's not an overnight thing. In fact, the only thing I can do overnight is tank a website. And clients tend to frown upon that. So we don't do that. So just all of that being said, just understand it's going to take time to see results. You're going to keep seeing things rise. And then once you start getting that like 9 months, 12 months in, and you're competing with yourself, that's the kind of growth you want to be able to see.
Yeah. Since we're talking about SEO, and websites tanking, funny question, that this actually happened to me. I don't do much SEO. I'm a lead gen guy, so I deal with mostly landing pages. But I did have an SEO campaign with someone who overnight decided to change. Not overnight, I shouldn't say that. They wanted to change their brand. So with the brand also changed the domain. So all that domain authority that they had, which didn't affect me because I was just doing lead gen stuff anyway off of a landing page, but it just went away, and they had a pretty decent domain authority. It was like in the 20s, and so let's talk about that. How important is, in the SEO world, how important is domain authority?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hello there, listeners. If you're an attorney and you would love to be a guest on the show so you can promote your services to people that listen to the show and beyond, give us a call at 888-416-7752 or send us an email at podcast@lbmsllc.com. One of my associates in the podcasting team will send you an email and connect with you, schedule some time, send you the podcast intake form, and schedule you to be interviewed on the show. So if that's something that you really would want to do, go ahead and take one of those actions, and we'll take it from there. So until then, enjoy the rest of the show.
So short story, it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how that's calculated depends on what tool you're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I would say keep in mind, when any of the tools that you're looking at, it's a logarithmic number. So the climb from 20 to 30 is much easier than the climb to 40 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, it is, like a quantifiable way. How much do search engines trust you? And that is important. And that is where knowing your competitive set comes into play, right? So for local law firms or even regional, 20s to 30s is probably pretty normal, right? That's where you're going to sit. Now, if you're one of the super large law firms that spans across different states, also, I will say, depending on what area of law you're in, you might be seeing 40s, 50s. However, I would not expect most law firms to ever approach something like an 80 or a 90. That's usually reserved for Fortune 500 companies that have billion-dollar branding, right? Or news sites. So that is definitely where I think that competitive set is important, but domain authority is still one of the biggest indicators. And I'd say just like a quick indicator for us to kind of gauge like how healthy is a site, because a lot goes into that. So, when we say healthy, is your site crawlable? Is the content crawlable, right? Is there just a lot of stuff that maybe you have technical problems that search engines can't actually understand what's going on there? For law firms, are you establishing your expertise and your authority, right? These are sensitive subjects pretty often, right? It could be your money, your life. It could be, you're dealing with families. So all of that becomes really important to establish that you are an authority. You have the credentials to be talking about what you're talking about. And that's something that we see Google putting more and more emphasis on. So I would say, really just exercising that expertise, showing that you are trustworthy, of course, is kind of the most important thing. And domain authority or domain ranking is often a quick way that we can figure out, has a site been doing that? Other things that usually impact it will be how many other sites are linking to you. This does not mean buy links. Do not buy backlinks. It's a terrible idea. Go about them organically. But yeah, there's a lot to it. And like I say, it can be a nice quick, like if you're a 15 and you're going up against other law firms that are in the 25 to 30 range, you've got some work cut out for you.
Yeah. I say that all the time. And I always tell people, hey, we can do that, but understand that if you want instant gratification, you need to start paying
Absolutely.
for
Yes.
ads first, and then let that thing gradually get up there. Have you seen, and since you work in both worlds, the lead gen world and the SEO world, have you seen ever where most leads coming from SEO versus from lead gen, or is lead gen always tops?
So for me, historically, SEO is always the highest ROI.
Oh no, yeah, definitely ROI. Yeah, I'm talking about in terms of numbers of leads coming through.
So this is probably my own bias coming through, but yes, most of the time. So I will say for us, yeah, right. What I do like to do, so you just mentioned it, like if you're starting out and you need the phone to ring, let's start with paid campaigns. And then we'll start doing some of the foundational SEO. And the idea there is like, all right, let's say we're spending 10K. So we'll do 7K on paid management. We'll do 3K on SEO. And as over time, we'll start really shifting that, because ideally what's happening is on paid, the campaign's getting refined. We're lowering the cost per acquisition. And we're really like moving up those quality scores, coming up with really great landing page content, really, really buttoning up the whole CRO process with the work that we're doing on organic, right? So then we start shifting to more organic work. So that ideally you start seeing like a 50-50. Well, the other thing that has happened this entire time is that organic can look to the paid performance and figure out what keywords actually led to conversions. So I can see which keywords are actually more transactional, which are more conversional, and know that that should be my focus for my organic campaign, because, hey, these other terms that we thought would be really great, they're more like top of funnel, they're awareness. So we're going to take those topics and themes and put those in social. Then we're going to take everything that's conversional, put it in our organic. And that, again, that way we're just driving down the cost on our paid media side, but getting that organic engine starting to go so that eventually overall you're spending less per month, but having just an engine that keeps going of leads coming to.
Okay. Awesome. Love it. Yeah. But then again, I'm not an SEO expert, but I have never seen where an SEO brought in more leads than the paid, in any scenario, even when I do it parallelly. But again, I'm not.
All right, let's work on a campaign together. Come on, I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I love the competitive nature.
Also, I mean, if you can get more leads than me, then that's still a win for the client. So let's do it.
It's a win-win for the client, of course.
Yeah,
100%. Let me ask you this: do you dabble at all in social, or is everything from a search engine perspective?
So we also dabble in social. So we'll do a lot of from the keyword research and again learning from paid media. kind of help with the content strategy on social. And then I love social ads. So doing entire like workflows and multiple touch points and basically moving users down the funnel in social, still one of the most effective methods I've seen. And I love it. I think it's so much fun to be able to be like, all right, here's top of funnel awareness. And so anybody who interacted with this video, I'm now going to follow up with a testimonial talking about how great this company is. And then we're going to follow up with a white paper to download. And then anybody who downloaded the white paper, now I'm going to hit them with, let's talk, let's set up a free consultation. So doing the multi-point workflows, those are definitely some of my favorite campaigns. Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I had heard rumors, and I don't know how true this is, but hopefully you'll tell me that now you can combine SEO with your social media, or not from the paid ads perspective, from a social media post perspective, and kind of go back and forth with that. Is there any truth to that?
So I would say they can definitely work together.
Okay.
So and so that I don't get in hot water, there have been many times that Google has come out and said that social signals do not impact ranking. However, there are way too many SEOs like me who have done a ton of tests that clearly it does. And the way I would say that it does that, it might be in a roundabout way, but let's say if you're creating a buzz on social that's causing users to go to your website, then that looks like increased interest to Google and other search engines. And especially if you're on Chrome, they're tracking everything you're doing, and that's impacting search results. So, it might not be a direct impact, but it definitely ends up helping. So I will say when we're doing organic and we are able to have input into social, or we're doing the social, we like to make sure that our content themes or the topics that we're tackling on social match what we're doing organically on the content side, and vice versa. Because what we don't want to do is, like, this is just the first example I can come up with, but like Zaxby's, I know they're doing a huge social push right now because they're finally bringing back the milkshake, but they're only doing it in Macon, Georgia.
Huh.
Now, they're doing a huge social push. If none of their content on their website talked about that as well, that would be a huge missed opportunity. Like if they were still talking about, there's some kind of sandwich that they came out with that they were really proud of for a little while. If they were still only talking about that, it would be a missed opportunity because ultimately you're creating an inconsistent experience, which is always bad for users.
Yeah. 100%. I'm having so much fun. I have so much things that I need to ask you. So have you seen an increase at all in customer acquisition coming from, say, search engines like Bing or DuckDuckGo or anything like that? Have you seen an increase in the past 2-3 years?
So it depends what market you're talking about. So I'm just going to stick to the US market. So interesting. I love that you asked this because just this week, Bing, for the first time in like 15 years, has a double-digit market share.
Awesome.
So they are growing quite a bit. And I will say where I see the success on Bing, it's very dependent on who is the target market. So if you're going after government or people over the age of 60, Bing is where you got to be. Because they either, well, if it's government, they're not allowed to change their search engine or their browser. And if they're over 60, they just don't anymore. Even if they know how to, they just don't.
They don't do it.
So they end up using Bing. So that is something that's interesting there. For a little while, we saw like a lot of other search engines trying to come up. And by a little while, I mean, probably about a couple of years ago, that were trying to really hammer home like this idea of privacy. That seems to have gone away with the rise of TikTok. That actually, I would say what's interesting is that Google is losing market share as far as people going to them for searches, but it's mostly to sites like TikTok, YouTube, and Amazon and eBay. So it's just, there's an entire consumer mind shift on what type of content or where do I go to get these answers. So definitely younger generations, if they want to vet products, they don't do it on Google, they do it on TikTok.
Interesting.
So it's just really, especially for e-commerce, it's a huge shift that one of the things that I'm trying to promote for 2024 is that SEOs, we have to become adept at all of these other platforms and cannot be so Google focused, because that's not where our users are anymore. They are shifting, they are changing, especially for e-commerce. It's been for a while that if you weren't present on Amazon, you were missing out on a huge market share.
Yeah.
And that's just continuing.
So yeah, let's dive in a little bit more on this, because another study came out not too long ago from TechCrunch. I'm sure you're familiar with that publication. That they talked about people are going to ChatGPT for research as well and getting a better result over Google.
Yes, which is so. I actually did see that article, and I went through how they did the survey.
Yeah, me
I have
too.
some thoughts about it, but
yeah, please go ahead.
To me, it was not a large enough sample size.
Yeah,
because I would say there's other reports that I've seen that kind of show, yes, there's been a massive surge of interest in ChatGPT and similar tools. However, when they first became publicly available, that was November of 2022, right? Just huge amounts of user base. They kept giving wrong answers.
Yep.
And so there's certain, to me, there's certain groups, certain demographics that now there's trust issues. So they're going to have to figure out how to overcome that. But the other thing that we're often seeing in those reports as well is that they're using ChatGPT to generate, but then they're going back to Google to fact check.
Yeah.
Which, of course, if you are using any kind of generative AI, please fact check, please. So I think we're going to continue seeing how that goes. It's going to be interesting now that Google rebranded Bard into Gemini, and we'll see if that actually works.
I saw that. I saw the rebrand. I was laughing. That was
because they were losing. So part of the reason they lost share to Bing was because the Bing chatbot did a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, let's be frank. No pun intended.
Well, you can be frank, but it's just interesting to see, and we're of course we're seeing now a lot of the policies starting to update. So, I think last year college students probably had a really good time having ChatGPT write their term papers. And now all the universities actually have the tools to identify. So we're going to start seeing that kind of self-regulate, I think. There's obviously still a lot of places it can go. But certainly as businesses, use it as a tool, not the only tool.
Yeah, you can't use that. It's not that real. I mean, it's reliable, but it's not, and that's a whole episode in and of itself.
Yes, it is. I agree.
But this has really, really, really been great, Sam. I'm really excited to release this episode, because I think there's so many of my audience is gonna get the knowledge that they need to really take, to really take digital marketing serious, because it's not just about paid ads versus SEO or whatever. It's about the data. It's about where should you be from a law firm perspective, or from an HVAC perspective. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. Where should you be? Where is your audience? Is it on TikTok? Is it on Google? Should I try to focus my attention on Bing, because that's where my demographic is? I love this type of topic because it shows people the value that agencies like you and I bring to the marketplace. And that's why I love to have people like yourself on this show. So again, thanks for fun. Thanks for coming. So before I let you go, what was the website where people could check you out and find out a little bit more about you?
Sure. So you can find us at thegray.company. My business partner and I also offer a podcast that we release monthly called Opinionated SEO Opinions. And actually, if you go to that website, thegray.company, you can even submit your own questions and we'll discuss them and answer them. So yeah, we have a lot of fun. And we also do a lot on social. So check us out on LinkedIn and Twitter at gray.co. You can see more from us.
And is there a particular industry that you typically work with in terms of your client base?
We work a lot with tech, especially like startup SaaS tech, and then a lot of regulated industries. So if you're dealing with compliance or if you have to worry about privacy, things like that. So we do a lot of fintech, health tech, just a lot of legal tech, government agencies, things like that.
That's so fitting, given all the information you just supplied us with.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I mean, is there anything I did not ask you that you think that will benefit the audience before I let you go?
No, just know that if your SEO isn't competing with your paid, you should take a look at maybe getting somebody else for SEO.
That is true. It's true. If it's not competing with your paid, I mean, you should have SEO.
I mean that with all kindness.
I'm an advocate of SEO. I just like to do lead gen because I deal with a lot of people who need leads today. And
I will say both are needed, right? And I think
they're both
a lot
needed.
to be said, especially if you're going after a more premium client or if your sales funnel is a little bit longer. Frankly, you need both of them to work together. Because they can benefit from each other quite a bit.
Oh, 1,000%. I agree. Well, awesome. This has been great. Thanks again for coming. This has been one of my favorite episodes in 2024. I can tell you because I love geeking out. I used to be a programmer back in the day. Didn't share.
Ooh, what did you program in?
I'm going to show my age here, but I programmed in Fortran and COBOL.
COBOL, I haven't heard that in a long time. Okay. All right.
As I said, I'm showing my age, but that was back when I graduated from my undergrad in New York City. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to put an end to this episode. I'm really, really hope that you guys got a lot out of it, as I did. This has been Frank Deming, the local business guy, and you've just been blessed by the great Sam Torres. Take care, everyone. Until next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Solutions for Local Law Firms, the podcast that provides you with all the latest digital marketing tools, tips, and strategies you will need to implement in order to stay ahead of your competition. If you would like to know more about the topic we discussed on the show today, reach out to Frank and his team at 888-416-7752 and schedule a discovery call with one of the marketing consultants. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, send an email to podcast@lbmsllc.com and we will put you on the schedule. With that being said, until next week, make it a successful digital marketing day. Peace out.